Welcome back to another episode of Insights with Experts, where we aim to encourage and foster discussion, learning, and creating an informed global community. To view this and other interviews in detail, head over to theseer.org, linked in the description. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our channel for constant updates. Enjoy the episode.
Hello everyone to another episode of Insights with Experts. Today we are joined by Raghvi. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Really good myself. To kickstart things off, I guess a bit of an introduction of yourself and what you do.
Sure. So I'm currently a third year economics and management student at the University of St Andrews, which, if you don't know, is a small little university in Scotland. There are 3 beaches, 3 streets, a big golf course, and that's about it. But originally I live in Surrey, just outside of London, and kind of over the past few years I've gotten interested in things like venture capitalism, entrepreneurship, and sort of dabbled a little bit with like investment banking and consulting as well.
So just to sort of kick things off, we wanted to ask you about your internships and many places that you've had experience with. And our question is, how do you let yourself stand out amongst other applicants, and how did you actually manage to get such great positions to put onto your CV in the future?
Yeah, I can tell you the full kind of journey. So when I was like 15 years old, I was really interested in entrepreneurship, and I always thought that that's where I would end up. So I began by doing a couple of work experiences at some tech startups. And to get those, I just cold emailed loads of companies, and I think a couple thought like, oh, this 15-year-old girl is reaching out to us, we should help her out. So I was really lucky with those. So when I got to university, most people kind of said to me like, oh, you don't need to be interning until at least your 3rd or 4th year. But I thought like, I have a full 3-month summer ahead of me. I should be kind of doing different things because that's the best way to learn. I applied to some spring week programs, and the first ones kind of opened up applications in like June. And I applied, and I got a few rejections, and I sort of looked back and I thought like, oh, I don't actually know how to build like a good CV, write a good cover letter, do interviews and things. And I ended up getting spring weeks in investment banking at Citi, Deloitte and McKinsey. And a spring week is essentially like a 1-week introduction to a firm, but they tend to kind of convert the spring week programs into summer internships. So they are really useful. And through that, I ended up getting a summer internship at Citi in investment banking for the summer.
Do you then have any applicable tips for our audience who are youth who are looking for such internship opportunities? Some of the tips that you discovered and learned?
Yeah, definitely. I think the number one thing is to ask for as much help as you possibly can. So sign up to organizations that will review your CVs and cover letters, reach out to older alumni who might have secured internships and things in the past, and ask them to give you advice and help you out. Kind of target the most competitive jobs and positions, and make sure that your CV and application is good enough for them, because if it's good enough for them, then if you just fall short, then you'll end up somewhere else really great as well with your CV. Make sure that it is really kind of numerical heavy. So use numbers everywhere you can. Make sure that you kind of position your experiences in a way that show your achievements rather than just what you did on the role.
The next question that we wanted to ask is leading into Edventure and your work with that. So what led you to join that, and what does Edventure do?
It's a student-run accelerator program for student-run startups. So we currently have around 26 universities giving us kind of students, and there are 3 people that we accept into the program. So one is people that have already started their startup and are maybe at pre-MVP stage. Another is a student with an idea, but not a team to kind of help them with that. And then finally, just a student who's passionate about being part of such a project, but doesn't have an idea or a startup. And then we match different people together in the first week. And then it's a 10-week kind of program with mentors, guest speakers, and a final demo day with investors to ensure that the UK startups can kind of have a point where they can continue to succeed and it's not just like a short-term side hustle.
Do you have any advice for student entrepreneurs on how to find market fit, on how to go to market, and how to find the addressable market, serviceable market, and things like that?
I think it's really a case of iterating. Like you just need to kind of see it, like you need to get something out there. You need to see if people are A, willing to be a free customer, and B, willing to be a paid customer. And once you get your sort of first 10 customers and they're saying, oh, I love this, that means that you probably have something worth kind of selling. Whereas if you find that, you know, the only people that are interested in your product are your friends and family because they have to be, and even they're not so passionate, you need to go back to the drawing board, fix any mistakes and go back out. So I think it's just about speed changes and ensuring that you eventually reach a point where people are saying like, I need this, and this is a product that I'm willing to pay for.
What are your tips on managing university work and sort of finding your future pathways as well?
So in my first year at university, I was basically just concentrating on my studies. I was part of a few extracurricular activities, but no major leadership positions. And I just found that I was very bored because I thought that I could be doing so much more with my time than I actually was. When you do have so many different things to manage at the same time, you're more prone to think about the time management and be efficient and apply that like 80-20 principle.
How did you see sort of the change of internship applications and that process due to the pandemic? And what is your sort of predictions on what it's going to be looking like over this summer, perhaps?
I think a major change from the pandemic was that because everything was virtual, it really increased accessibility. So that probably increased the number of applications as well, especially from those driven students. So I would say it was probably a more competitive year for that reason.
Hope you're enjoying the episode so far. To learn more about Orakui as well as more information about our upcoming episodes, don't forget to follow our socials for constant updates and education content. Links are always in the description.
As a woman in investment and tech, do you find it sort of difficult, or do you see a good amount of diversity in that sense in internships and sort of that sort of area of work?
So I think that the investing space, tech, consulting are all industries that are being pushed to embrace this change. So for example, on my Citi Spring Week, they emphasized many times that over 50% of the cohort was female. I think the issue is more in the other industries and the smaller firms.
Along the same line, what do you think is the industry's view of youth, I guess, younger founders, student founders?
So I think there are two sides to this. One is that students have a unique insight into Gen Z, which is a huge emerging space, and companies are investing so much money to be able to get those insights. There are a lot of issues with student founders, and I think the main one is that it's very difficult to ensure that a student founder will be committed.
Do you think that the university experience helps in sort of shaping you as an entrepreneur, as someone that's going into internships, do you believe that the university does enough and has enough sort of background and help to sort of lead you onto that pathway, or is it more of like a personal preference and people should sort of make up their own pathways and not really rely on universities in that sense?
I think that this is something which makes the specific university you're at so important. So I'm a scout for Open Scout, which is a startup that connects investors to startup founders. And I'm the only scout in the UK. The rest go to universities across the US. So many VCs are looking to expand into into Europe because there are a few unicorns and things coming out of the European market at the moment.
Wrap up this interview, we ask this question every guest that comes on here, and it's, if you could leave the youth with one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think you should be curious and just do the things that you love. Don't do anything for the sake of the next step. Just pick the opportunities right now that will give you the most joy, because that shows what type of person you are, and that will eventually lead you into the right place. I get involved in so many things, and none of them are for any reason other than I think that they're the best kind of opportunities and choices that I could make at that time based on what I'm interested in and what I love. And that has served me so well, because it helps you to figure out what kind of person you are, what you're interested in, and where you want to be. Yeah.
Thanks for listening in. This podcast has been brought to you by Desare, a platform designed to bridge the gap between the youth and professional. You can read more about us at desare.org. And you can also check out the section titled Insights with Experts, where you can submit your questions that you might have for future experts and industries that you would like to learn more about. And you can also refer in any experts that you might know yourself.